standalone shot. Look at this picture that I've put up here. This has three elements: the DC-3, the crash plane in Iceland. It's got amazing skies. So my first instinct was to shoot from this side. So when I looked at it, I was drawn to the windows. And I thought somewhere in here, I'd get a nice shot. But of course, the light isn't very good. In that moment, I decided to move the shot around. So I walked to a different part of the front of the aircraft. And I came up with this shot. And at that time, the sky opened and I saw the shot. I wanted to place her somewhere in here or here. I really wanted to place her in this position here and create an image that had a great sense of scale, depth. So when I put the model in this position, in my mind I knew it was going to work. And this was a perfect positioning because you've got that rule of third, that rule of third, that rule of third, or you got her head here crossing the line of the plane, breaking up the line of the aircraft. Okay, so the next bit. So bearing in mind all of this happens quite fast. The Triome has taught me over the years to think about these things very fast. So where the makeup and the model is getting arranged, and you can see from the behind the scenes they're tweaking and doing everything. I'm taking test shots and that. All the time I'm composing and I'm creating it. I'm working my angles and taking quick tests. Don't let the model know that I'm doing it, but I'm finding out my starting point, and that's what the Triome is. What is capturing my eye? How do I tell that story? Because that's what I'm actually doing, is I'm telling a story here. Now the composition is solved or resolved, but I use a longer exposure, and the reason for that, it allows the ambient light to build. It builds, it creates atmosphere, and it creates depth. But when you actually look at this picture here, it's flat. The light has gone too far behind the horizon, so all the lighting, there's no contrast in the shot. Decision 3. Now the location has the atmosphere that I want. I've created another problem. The atmosphere was strong enough to overpower the model. There's not enough light on the model, even though with the ambient light and the light dipping, there's still not enough light to make that shot work without burning out the sky or creating really flat or really dark images. This is where I decided to use a bit of flash to be, not because the scene was dark and not because I wanted the photograph brighter. The flash had one job, and that was to hold the model inside the exposure I'd already built. The shutter controlled the environment, the flash controlled the subject, and this is where it's very easy to overlight that picture by throwing a flash on it, overexposing it or underexposing it. Too little flash and she disappears into the location. Too much and the whole shot starts to look artificial. The flash needs to freeze her, hold the detail in her face and separate her from the aircraft without destroying that available light. So here's my sequence in the shots, okay? They're not three separate techniques here. They're connected decisions. My decisions are all connected. And if you strip everything away, that is really the sequence I want you to remember. Build the frame first, decide where the subject belongs in relation to the background, and read that ambient light. Use your shutter speed to build atmosphere. Slow it down, allow the ambient light to come up, and then pop a bit of light in. It can be flash, it can be LED, it can be ARRI film lighting, whatever you are able to use. This whole shoot is a sequence of decisions. So this shot of the model and the DC-3 in Iceland is a whole series of decisions that I've had to make. The first one is looking at the shot and working out what's working, how the image is going to resolve with the background, the lighting, the plane and the model. And that is Triome. That is how you bring a shot together and you layer it up and you understand. Then you use the dot and the circle to pick that first point of reference that people are going to look at. And that for me is the face. So when you look at the face, there's a nice crisp light on it. It becomes very sharp because of the lighting, the outfit's dressed. But I don't necessarily use a stop down lens because then it takes away the whole idea of that shot. So I use the lens as open as I possibly can and make sure all my settings enable me to capture that at that shutter speed. You read the relationships between light, tone, depth and space before actually reacting within the camera. You make decisions in the correct order. The frame first, ambient exposure next to build the atmosphere, and the flash held the model inside of it, within the composition. None of those decisions worked on their own. Each one was supported by the decision before it. The settings still matter, but they serve to help those decisions. And this is the difference between operating the camera and directing the shoot. So once again, just look at this empty location. The aircraft hasn't changed. The black background's not changed. The sky's not changed. What has changed is how you actually read that shot. You will read the shot differently. Go through this video a few times, scroll backwards and forwards, and try to understand what I'm teaching you here in the trio about seeing first and shooting second. So when you arrive at the next location or next studio session or next portrait or wedding, ask yourself this simple question: what setting should I use first? What am I trying to get in this shot? Don't put your camera onto auto everything. You've got to learn to control that camera and let it represent your mind and your decisions. Begin with the frame. Decide what needs to dominate and what needs to recede and where the subject belongs. Then use a shutter to build the environment and use the light to hold the subject within inside of it. You begin to direct the picture. The photograph wasn't found. If you like this video, I'm James Nader. I've been active on YouTube since March, April. What I've learned over the last 20 years as a photographer, creative advertising and fashion. If you like what I've said, click the link, subscribe, make a comment if you want. Look in the description below. There's 2 links, one to Triome and one to Envos. These are system PDFs that I'm giving away free. So I look forward to seeing you on the next one. I'm James Nader, over and out.